broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations. This is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you, no matter where you are in this world. Welcome to the Sportcat Show, formerly the Paranormal Guys. Things are going to get a little weird tonight because we're talking vampires and werewolves. We got a polite werewolf and a brutal, bloody vampire. So for the second hour, get your weird ready. Join the chat. Come over and get your questions in. Is it going to be wooden stakes or is it going to be silver bullets? Our first guest tonight, well, he's coming to us from the great north. And I would say white because hopefully it's not snowing up there right now. But Mark is written several books about werewolves. And let's bring Mark out. Hey, Mark, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
You too, my friend. You too. So I was correct. It's not white up there right now, is it?
No, it is not, except for some of the ash that's fallen from some of the forest fires that are happening in the northern regions, because it's all wooded, forested areas there. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Well, you got a break from the snow. We were just talking about that backstage. So my Yankeeness is, well, I guess my Southernism was showing because I was like, how much snow is too much snow?
Depends on where you're from, really.
Yeah. So, but my son's like, oh, it's a little snow. It's 4 foot. That's not a little snow.
It's nothing.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand why they don't drive the big trucks like we do down south. It seems like we should swap. Well, Mark, I know you've got a book you're working on, so we'll let you touch on that before you leave, so that you can tell everybody where they can find it and everything. But we want to talk about the werewolves, and you've got a series of 8 books out in the werewolf series. And my first thing I was curious about, are you a huge Spider-Man fan, or is it just for the novel?
I am a gigantic Spider-Man fan. I mean, it very clearly comes through in my main character in the werewolf series. There's no hiding from it. So I just embraced it. And you can be darn tootin'. I was there with my kid on opening night watching the latest and what I think is the greatest in the modern Spider-Man era, I guess, of movies.
Don't spoil it for me. The missus had to go.
All I can say is it's really good. And I mean, the Punisher is in it because I'm sure you've seen trailer and stuff like that. But the interplay between the two of them is just bang on. It's very, very much like the comic. I'm a comic purist, and I loved seeing Peter as a loner. Not quite as broke as he always was in the comics, because I mean, previously he was with Tony Stark and he had all this technology. But I loved seeing all of these, and there's so many beautiful callbacks. There's an opening sequence where if you are a comic book fan and a Spider-Man fan, you're going to go, oh, that's from the cover of this issue. Oh, that's from the cover of that. It's and I'm just elbowing my kid, going, oh, did you get that? Did you get that? Did you get that? Because I mean, I have all those original comics. I'm like, oh, that's from issue blah blah blah, right? So nerded out big time. I'm going to have to see it a few dozen more times.
Yeah, the wife had to work the next day, so we couldn't go, and she had to go in at like 6 a.m. She's like, "I'm too tired." I'm like, "Yeah, that's okay. We'll go next weekend." So hopefully,
spoiler: this guy gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and he gets these powers.
Okay, is that how the werewolf gets bitten? He gets bit by a dog, or
he gets bit by a radioactive? Yeah. Well, I mean that is the genesis for how Michael Andrews becomes a werewolf, and in book 8, which I released earlier this year, was called Once Bitten. It was meant to be the short story of when he first discovered he had turned into a wolf, because when you first encounter him in book 1, he's been a wolf for a dozen years. He's been a wolf for 10 years. He's gotten used to the routine and the logistics, which I think are kind of funny, of, where do I go to change in a big city like New York? Then I thought, okay, so for Once Bitten, I thought I never really shared the misadventures of when he first arrived, because you find out in book one, he's like, oh, on my way to New York, I was hitchhiking, I got bit by a wolf on the road, and this guy named Buddy picked me up and he talked my ear off, but he also, knew a lot of things, and I've learned from him, and he's kind of a mentor. And so Buddy becomes a regular character who mentors him throughout the whole series. But then I thought, why don't I show what happened in that instance instead of a flashback? Let's have the instance, because I thought it would be funny. What was the first time he turned into a wolf? And so what I did, which I thought would be humorous, just like in the first one, he wakes up naked in Battery Park and is like, what the heck did I do last night? Why is there a bullet in my leg? Why do I taste blood in my mouth? This time he goes, he wakes up in a hotel room and it is completely trashed, because if you can imagine a wild animal suddenly trapped in this room and no way to get out, destroyed everything. He's like, he's naked. Everything is destroyed except for this book he had been reading, a Canadian authored book I had to plant in there, Life of Pi by Yann Martel, which you may be familiar with, the movie adaptation of that, which is about a man and a beast. So I was trying to play on that, but I have that. And then he realized, like, the door's locked. What happened? Like, how come this didn't happen? How come this didn't happen? There were two things that were untouched. He was one of the things untouched. And then, because humor is important to this, he realizes it must have been him, because he sees a pile of what he thinks is dog stool in the corner, and he recognizes the corn he had from a street vendor the day before. I mean, because it's scatological humor is just on par with the things I write.
Well, did I read somewhere that this actually started off as like a short story?
It did,
and
yeah.
And then you realized I can build a whole universe around.
Well,
this.
no, I mean, so like Once Bitten was meant to be a short story. I thought, oh, I should just do a short story to give the fans. And then I realized, nope, it's a novella. So, it's like 40,000 words. So I did that. And the original story, I was in New York. One of the first times I was in New York. And I remember walking through Battery Park, and there was a call for a short story anthology called, it was kind of like the Man Behind the Monster. And so the idea was they wanted to see the story of, for example, and I've always been a fan of The Incredible Hulk, particularly the TV series, where you've got Bruce Banner, or David Banner, you've got Dr. Banner and the Hulk, and he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, what happened when I turned into this monster? So I like the idea of somebody who didn't know what they did as a monster when they were a monster, but I wanted to see the side effects of it. So I'm in Battery Park and I was thinking, oh, the monsters thing. And I was thinking, oh, here's a green space right in the heart of the financial district in downtown, like in one of the world's most populous cities. What if you had a werewolf curse and you were living in a city like that? Where would you go? I'm like, well, you would obviously go to Central Park, because you've got these big expanse, acres and acres of green space. That would be the only place you could really go to let the wolf run around, and then you wake up and stuff. So I was like, well, what if this guy normally changes in Central Park, but he wakes up like way down on the southern tip, and he's naked and his clothes are back in Central Park. And he's like, what do I do? So that was the premise for the short story called This Time Around, because the story opens, this time around, I woke naked in Battery Park with my, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the heck did I do? And that was initially a 10,000 word short story that I tried to cut down to 6,000 words to submit, because that was the limit for the anthology. It didn't get accepted. But a friend of mine, a mentor, Sean Costello, Canadian horror author, he'd read it and he goes, that's a great story. And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, what happens next? I'm like, nothing. It's over. And then he's like, no, really, you should, like, what happens the rest of his day? This is just the first few hours of his day. What about his whole day? And then I got it in my head, well, what does happen for the rest of the day? Because he's trying to get to a meeting with his literary agent. And so I pick up from the meeting with the literary agent and started writing the novel where the agent says, oh, okay, you're a guest on Letterman, and it's tonight, and he's got a deadline. So he's got a bunch of conflicting things that happen. I'm like, oh, and I got to make it messier. I'm going to have an ex-girlfriend show up who knows he's a wolf and wants to use his powers to help find her fiance, who's been kidnapped. And so that short story became a novel, which I thought was a standalone novel. And then we were talking about Stowe, Vermont. Mm-hmm. after the book had been out for several years, and an editor had approached me and said, "Hey, we're doing this monster themed anthology. We'd like you to write a story. And the theme is Monster Road Trip." And I was like, "Oh, Monster Road Trip. That sounds fun." And I went, what if Michael Andrews, my main character, what if he was on his way to Stowe, Vermont for some important thing, leaving Manhattan, but the train's going to arrive on the night of a full moon, so he can't control himself. He turns into a wolf. And so it's like the deadline is he's on a train, he's going to Stowe, Vermont, and he'll turn into a wolf before it gets there. Aha! Okay, but now I got to throw more things at this poor guy because I can't just let that happen. He's got to find a young girl who's running from a human predator. And so he's trying to protect her and knows that he's going to turn into a wolf, so he's not going to be able to do much when he's not a human. So that became Stowaway. And I went, oh, there are more stories in Michael's universe. And then, book 9 is coming out this fall. So apparently I keep finding, I keep finding predicaments to throw poor Michael into.
Does Michael ever talk back to you and go, wait a minute, break the fourth wall like Deadpool?
I probably should. Well, I mean, he does break the fourth wall in the way that Michael does acknowledge that he's talking to the reader. It's all first person narrative.
Ah, okay.
So he is very navel gazing, self-aware, but he also is self-deprecating in a lot of ways. So not quite to the extent of Deadpool, but I do love the idea of breaking that fourth wall. He doesn't quite admit he's a character in a book, but it's almost like, because it's from his first person's perspective. And there are only a few books that are not told from his perspective. So there's a prologue told third person, Michael, in one of the books, and then a couple of the ones where Gail, his main love interest, that ex-girlfriend who he's still in love with, there's a story that is the backstory of when they first met and fell in love, called Lover's Moon, and half of that in Gail's perspective was written first person by my good friend Julie Strauss, who's a romance writer. So we wrote that as a romantic comedy. Again, it was supposed to be a short story to satisfy readers who wanted to know, how did Michael and Gail meet all those years ago? Because there was this conflict and this tension between them now, because he's still in love with her, but she doesn't want to be with him. And so, but they're still friends. So that you've got that conflict. So I did that story, and then we did Lover's Moon. And then Julie had so much fun writing it. I said, well, I think I need Gail's perspective for Hex in the City, the next book, where Michael and Gail kind of team up to fight the bad guys. And so she agreed to write one more. But other than that, all of it's Michael's first person's perspective. So it's very limited. If he doesn't know it, for the most part, you don't know it either.
Now, like you were saying, like the Hulk, he can't control besides for the full moon when he turns. Is that correct?
Yeah, and he's very anal about it. So again, the research, because this is set, I think it was 2017 when it's set, because when I started it, and it's almost like these books take place over the course of just like 6 months or 9 months or whatever, right? There is flashbacks that go back to the earlier years, but I'm actually looking at a few things. I'm looking at what was the weather in New York at this time, and what was the phase of the moon. Because when the moon's 80% or more, he turns into and he has no control. So he has an app, and he's constantly anally checking. And when he has to go on a trip to Los Angeles in Fear and Longing in Los Angeles, he's kind of like, oh, good, I can fly that day because it's not a full moon day. and there's even a thing in that trip back from LA where the plane is delayed. So have you ever been on a plane and it's been delayed so often that it's like 6 or 8 hours late? So he's like, oh yeah, I'll get to New York in plenty of time. And all of a sudden he's in the air and he's going to turn into a wolf. And so that's the tension. So that's a really critical thing for him, because he has no control and he has no memory. The other frustrating thing, which is why he goes to therapy in the book Only Monsters in the Building, is every other werewolf he's met has complete control and consciousness as a wolf. He's the only one who has no control and no memory, except for these little snippets of like, racing through the woods and grabbing a rabbit with his teeth and stuff like that. Like he has these little snippets of memory, but he has other than that, he has no conscious awareness of what's going on as a wolf. With one exception, there's some scenes in Hex in the City, as well as not Hex in the City, I should say, in Only Monsters in the Building, when he goes to therapy, the therapist helps him connect with the wolf a little bit better. So there are moments where the two brains come together, and that's when Michael realizes, oh, I could work at this. I'm not as defective as I thought.
Oh yeah, you have him with a vegetarian vampire, something I can't remember what the troll was, but
The troll is a gregarious, friendly, welcoming troll. So instead of scaring people away from his bridge, which is what he's mandated to do as a troll, he welcomes them in and wants to feed them and stuff like that, right? I've got the mermaid who repels men by using really horrible pickup lines that men would normally use, like just really gross, stupid, horrible things. And she just can't help herself, and it really completely turns guys off. I have a fairy that has trouble deceiving people and trying to leverage her powers. And I have a werecat who behaves more like a dog. So he's not cat. He's more like a loyal, faithful, hey, Spike, want to chase cars, Spike? Like that kind of person. And the vegan vampire was a lot of fun to write because I thought, when people will often become vegan out of their compassion for animals. I mean, it could be health reasons, but a compassion for animals. And I was like, what if he's forced to have to consume the flesh of other creatures, humans or otherwise, and he can't rectify that? So he's in therapy because he's trying to deal with the fact that he's not the vampire he's supposed to be. I mean, I had so much fun with Only Monsters in the Building. It was a really fun idea of just throwing a whole bunch of characters together and saying, what could go wrong with a bunch of monsters getting therapy in a hidden remote wilderness in upstate New York. And of course that becomes a closed room mystery because one of them murdered the therapist.
Oh, great.
And Michael doesn't even know if it was him.
Oh, gosh, that's where Xavier was, wasn't he, for the X-Men? He was
oh yeah, wow. You know what? I guess a lot of my stuff comes from Marvel Comics, doesn't it? They inspired by these.
Hey, it's what we read growing up, it's what we revert to. I'll be in the nursing home reading them, so probably next week. But
you and me both.
I feel it some days, brother. I was gonna ask, how do you find a therapist that treats that kind of malaise?
Oh, you know what? It was really interesting to do that one because I live in Waterloo, Ontario, and we have two universities here. And Waterloo University and Laurier University. Laurier is one of the fathers of Confederation here in Canada. So it's Dr. Laurier. So because you pull names from whatever's nearby. And I had a lot of fun because some of the chapters are a transcript of Michael and Dr. Laurier in conversation. And I haven't written, I used to write plays when I was teaching drama to kids in a summer camp. And so I've actually written plays for adults, but I've actually written plays that have been performed by people and stuff like that. So I hadn't written, dialogue script in a long time. So it was so fun to do that because there's nothing other than a little bit of stage direction, very minimal. And the stage direction is usually because you're listening to a transcript. So you hear the sound of pencil scratching, or you hear, the doctor flipping pages and going to check his notes. So the funny thing is Scott Overton, who is a Canadian science fiction writer, but also a retired radio personality from Sudbury, Ontario. Scott's a good friend, but he's also a professional narrator. So Scott is the voice of Michael in my audiobooks. But in those chapters in Only Monsters in the Building, having Scott do the dialogue with himself would have been really awkward. In text, it's okay because, and then Dr. Laurier said, blah, 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 blah. And then Michael said, and Scott can do the voices, which he does a great job of. But I thought, no, it's just going to sound weird because I don't want the tag Andrews Laurier. You just want the voice. So I did the voice of Dr. Laurier because I figured I put this poor slob into this situation. I should at least try to help him get out of it. So it was really cool to have, Scott doing Michael's voice. And Michael is really just a stand-in for, wish fulfillment Mark, who wishes he had superpowers like Spider-Man and can help people, right? So it was really a lot of me built into Michael Andrews because write what you know. And so it's really funny to have me treating myself as a therapist, which is, I realized the irony there is the whole series is really just me treating myself in therapy.
Nothing wrong with that. You just need the superpowers. So,
Yeah.
as a werewolf, what superpowers does he have? I mean, speed.
So he has the proportional skill. So it's kind of like I think about characters like Daredevil. I'm going to go back to Marvel because I'm very familiar with characters. I love Daredevil and Wolverine with the enhanced sense of smell, but really, really powerful. And it gets stronger the fuller the moon is. Even as a human, Michael can smell emotions. He can hear your heartbeat, so he can tell when you're about to attack because of the change of heartbeat, or it's a lie detector kind of stuff. He is stronger and faster, like his agility and his strength and stuff are heightened, which creates some really funny scenes in one spit. And I love that, where he's first tearing across Central Park to try to get back to where his clothes are and doesn't want to be spotted. And he makes a joke, is like, God has a sense of humor because the male anatomy was not meant for running naked. So I had some fun describing the uncomfortableness for Michael. I was like, yeah, I'm like, man, I really respect underwear. So,
that'll make you respect
athletic support. Let's talk about athletic support.
I was going to say he needs to have clothes stashed all throughout the city.
Well, that's part of the strategy, is when he goes to Central Park, sometimes he has a backup set of clothes, because every once in a while, like, a homeless person finds his clothes, is like, woohoo, yay. So yeah, like, I like the logistics, right? I mean, what I like about, because I do write true ghost stories as well, and so I really like looking at a paranormal thing and trying to apply the logic. So how would you deal with this as a real human? How would you deal with the fact that you turn into a wolf every night for 10 days every month, right? How do you have a normal relationship with somebody, or explain to them, oh, by the way, I have to go be a wolf now.
I'll be back. Special diet.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, no, I'll eat later. I'll scrounge something up.
Yeah, it's New York. I'll find something. Yeah, I love the premise, and I'm gonna have to get one of the books from you because it sounds great. And I was reading the magazine today. Have you heard of the squonk? I think it's called. It's like the smallest Pennsylvania cryptid that cries when you see it. Or when you see it. Yeah. And I was thinking, when I was going through the part where I was reviewing about your books, I was like, that would be a perfect thing to have in therapy, a squonk that couldn't cry.
Oh my God, that'd be ideal. Yeah. If only I could cry. Well, that was the thing. I wanted to throw the tropes around and have some fun with it, right? Because if Michael's defective, because he's not a normal, like, he can't be the werewolf that he's supposed to be, there's got to be some other monsters that aren't normal. The paranormals aren't normal. So they're a little bit, and that's the other thing too, is Michael's come into this world, and really, apart from Buddy, who's kind of a mentor and understands a little bit more about the world, Michael has no clue. He has no clue why this happens, or he doesn't even realize that there are other paranormals walking around until he starts encountering them. He's like, oh wow, really? There's other people like me. And so I think I like that fish out of water element to it. I really enjoy fish out of water stories, because you're like, he's not, and again, he's a polite Canadian living in one of the busiest cities in the world. I'm from a small town like Michael. Actually, Michael's from the very same small town I'm from. It's just easier that way. And he's overwhelmed in a big city, and he's a polite Canadian, so he's more likely to apologize than to fight you. And yet he finds himself compelled, because he's a fan of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. That's what drew him to New York in the first place. He wanted to be in the place where he grew up reading comics about, and to be a writer there. He finds himself in fights, but he's not a fighter. he has the strength, but he doesn't have the inclination or ability. It's not like he naturally became a fighter. And so I've had a lot of fun showing Michael struggle through dealing with stuff like that, and even understanding when he gets really, really upset and angry, he can't, like, he's strong. He can't control himself. And so I even have some scenes in the book where he tries to, something happens that blocks him from turning into a wolf. So by suppressing the animal as a human, the animalistic tendencies become stronger and stronger until they kind of overwhelm him. And I mean, the message is, you got to be yourself. And that creates a challenge for him. So I mean, I've loved playing with that sense of, power and responsibility like Spider-Man, but I've also loved playing with, but what if you're just not good at it?
Did when you were researching for, I know you do a lot of the ghost stuff.
Yeah.
And did you do a lot of research into other cryptids like this with the werewolves or Bigfoot or anything?
Yeah, you know what? I did a lot of werewolf research and read a lot of mythologies and where different werewolves from different regions of the world. And then I looked at werewolves in literature and I watched films and I tried to incorporate it. So a couple things were really clear early on. So Kelly Armstrong, Canadian author Kelly Armstrong, had a series. Bitten was a TV series based on some of her books. And I love the way that Elena, her werewolf in that series, turns into a complete wolf, not a half person, half wolf. She turns into a wolf. I'm like, that's the kind of wolf Michael needs to be. He turns into a wolf. People think he's a dog if they see him, right? So it's not like this scary half man, half monster creature. That was one element. I also, again, drawing upon the Hulk, I like the idea of the blackout time where he has no idea what happened. So he's just as confused as why he woke up here. In the first, when I flash back to Once Bitten and he wakes up and there's like, pieces of bird bone in his mouth and feathers. And he's like, oh, what did I eat? Stuff like that. So that's an important aspect. And then of course, for the other monsters, so for fairies and mermaids and trolls, I did do as much research as I have a lot of books on cryptids and monsters and ghosts and stuff like that. And even one of the biggest, deepest research that I had to do is in the novels Fear and Longing in Los Angeles and Fright Night's Big City. Michael encounters a group of people who want to be paranormal. So they've used a combination of science and biology, like this combination of magic and science to create a super race of superhuman beings to take over. And I based it on, there is a book called Hitler's Monsters. It's an academic book about how the Third Reich was trying to make super soldiers and leverage the paranormal. And so I was like, well, what if there was an offshoot of somebody from that era who kept this cult going, who was moved to LA, escaped Germany and created this religion and this cult. And so that's what I did. And so I had Hitler's Monsters, which was a really like 800-page academic text, read the whole thing. I ordered probably half a dozen books on black magic because I needed to come up with incantations that were based on real, black magic, based on the crystals and the ingredients you would use. But then I invented whole new potions and stuff like that. So I wanted it for anyone who is familiar with magic in the real sense of our world, not Harry Potter kind of magic. I wanted it to at least sound real. It's kind of like when you use a gun, you better darn well have the research right so that somebody who really knows guns goes, you didn't do that. I mean, when I have Michael walking through a street in New York in 2017, I'm going through Google Maps and I'm saying, well, what was on the corner? I'm very anal about where he is, and it's like, oh, that was a Zeller's back then. Now it's this, but back then it was a Zeller. So I want it to be very, very realistic. And so with the black magic, with the occult, with all of those things, Necronomicon and all those books, I have all these books, and I was kind of like, if there's some FBI watch list or
that's what I was going to say
here in Canada, they're looking at me like, what's he doing?
Yeah, you've definitely made the list.
Yeah, he's ordered all these scary books. Yeah.
There's like a map with like a bullseye around your house.
But I had to understand curses and potions and spells. And Gail, so Michael's Michael's his love interest is his best friend Gail runs an occult shop in New York City, and it's exactly in the location of a long-running occult shop in the city, except I've changed the name, and Gail's the owner. But I have to have, when Gail's selling stuff in her shop, I have to have realistic properties that she would carry. And so, I mean, I like doing things, and of course, I have him staying at the Algonquin Hotel, and I fictionalized him staying in what used to be known as the Barrymore Suite. John Barrymore had stayed there. He actually lives at the Algonquin Hotel in Midtown New York. But I was like, well, let's just pretend that this got a bigger apartment. It was a bit fancier than what the Barrymore Suite is now. So it's like an apartment with a kitchen and stuff like that. But he lives there because he's a celebrity, and so I have fictionalized that, but I still have him interact with the cat that is a feature of the Algonquin Hotel. Because the cat knows he's a wolf.
I was going to ask, does he have any pets?
Yeah, no, but the cat at the Algonquin Hotel can sense his wolfish nature, and they have this fun, playful thing where it's like very few people know what he really is, but animals know. They always know.
Yes, they have more sense in more than one way.
Smarter than the rest of us.
Exactly.
But you meet an animal, and sometimes animals are really good detectors of type. So I'm good friends with Kevin J. Anderson, who's a science fiction writer from Colorado, and he's coming up. We're going to be going to see Rush Friday night, and when he came last year and stayed with us, we have a dog and two cats, and the dog, of course, loves everyone, but the cats hide from anyone who's never been to the house. Kevin has never been to the house before. He walks in the door. The one cat comes right up to him within 30 seconds of him coming up the door and lets Kevin pet her. And then the other cat that stays hidden for days and days actually comes out after 12 hours to check him out. And I was kind of like, are you a cat whisperer? And he's a huge cat fan. Him and his wife have cats. They love them to death. He is just a huge. So it's like the cats knew he was one of them. You know what I mean? Like the animals have this sense, and I love that. Michael also has a sense like that for people. He's kind of like, no, this, and my wife is that way, by the way, too. She's very much, her spidey sense is really. I mean, I think everyone's good and awesome, and I'm naive and trust everyone, and she'll often go, yeah, that one's a little shady, and I'm like, no, they're not, they're great, and then I find out later, oh wow, they were shady.
Yeah, me too.
I had no idea they had all those dead bodies in their basement.
So while you made him polite like a Canadian.
Yeah.
So does he have when he's human, does he have a thing where he would prefer poutine or New York slice? So.
Oh, he's got it. Well, now that he's been in New York for a long time, I think it's New York slice, but he could follow it with poutine. But nobody makes poutine quite like they do in Quebec. So
I've only had it once, and I'm not sure I had it the right way.
You have to have it. You know what? You have to have it the right way. With so the cheese curds have to be a solid, squeaky cheese curd, but then the hot gravy melts it as it touches it, and it has to mix that way with the right kind of thick cut fries. You can't be the stringy little fries.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit nerdy about things like maple syrup and poutine and Nanaimo bars and what do we call them? The butter cups.
Reese cups?
No, they butter tarts, which are kind of like little mini. They're kind of like a little mini pecan. They're like pecan pie filling in these little tarts. It's a very Canadian thing, butter tarts. And some of them do have pecans. Some of them have raisins, and saying raisins in them. Some people are like pineapple on pizza. They'll kill you if you mention, how dare you put raisins in them. But there's so many. There's even in Paris, Ontario, not too far from where we live. Liz and I have gone to the Paris Butter Tart Festival. Where it's vendors that have bazillion kinds of butter tarts, and there's just so many different flavors. But yeah, butter tart is a very Canadian thing too.
I've never heard it. Do they bake them or fry them?
They're baked. They're baked. So again, it's got a very
I'm
fluffy
from the
pastry.
South, so everything's fried down here.
Yeah, well, you could fry. I guess you could have fried. You could deep fry them, but no, they're a nice baked thing. They're almost like in a cupcake tin, but they have like the pastry. It's usually a nice
Mhm.
fluffy pastry, and honestly, the filling is very much like a pecan pie filling, for taste wise. But it's a nice little cupcake thing, and the butter tarts. Yeah, so often, like when I visit friends in the States, I'll often bring a box of butter tarts and hope they don't get squished in my luggage. So they can try them. I bring things like ketchup potato chips, which are very Canadian. Ketchup
Never heard
flavored
of that
potato. Yeah,
either.
they're not really available in many states. Smarties, which are not what you guys have Smarties, but ours are more like M&Ms. It's a candy chocolate coated candy, or candy coated chocolate, I should say. And we call what you call Smarties, we call those rockets. Those are the
Okay.
the powdery kind of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
Fancy.
those are popular at Halloween, but Smarties. So I'll always bring boxes of Smarties when I go to writers' conferences, like little, the little ones, and I just give them away to people because it's like, ooh, we don't get these. So it's kind of like Trader Joe's. We don't have them in Canada, so
When you said what was it? You said rocket. What did you call it? When you said, I thought of a rocket pop, which was a lollipop that was multi-flavored and kind
we
of
have those
crunchy.
too. Yeah, we call those
Okay.
rocket pops too, but we just call them little. I don't know why they're called rockets, but that's what you guys call Smarties. And Smarties is just a candy. So Coffee Crisp as well was also a Canadian. Although I think Coffee Crisp has made its way into the U.S.
I don't think I'm not a coffee person, so no, I haven't.
No,
had
it's
that.
it's a candy bar, but it's got
Oh,
these wafers and this sort of chocolate, and it's almost like a big thick Kit Kat in terms of
ooh,
the texture, but it's fluffier and lighter than a Kit Kat. Like a Kit Kat would be a heavier. So,
okay.
I
Ooh,
mean, it's
and this is
interesting the
spicy.
candy bars and the thing, and we often call them chocolate bars here rather than candy bars. And similarly, and I know in certain northern states as well as in Ontario where we live, we don't call it soda, we call it pop. And I know in certain states, it's Coke, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
everything's Coke. Yeah,
Everything's
you got
Coke.
green Coke, Mountain Dew. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. So we call it pop, and I know a lot of places will call it soda. So.
Mhm. And don't try and order sweet tea past pretty much Virginia.
Oh my God,
Uh,
you'll get hung.
you want raspberry? No, you don't put raspberry. What's wrong with you?
It's that pineapple on pizza principle. I always say when a book is not someone's cup of tea, it's not that it's not good. It's just not their thing.
Not
Not their cup of sweetened iced tea.
So you keep your fruit juice over there.
I mean, and again, I know this is live in Australia, and there's a lot of Australian listeners. So there's certain foods that are delicacies and enjoyed. Like, is it Marmite that I've tried, and I really want to try? And I was like, I don't understand how this is enjoyed by people. Is it Marmite? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Um, yeah, I had it on the tip of my tongue. It was in the song, wasn't it? Men at Work.
Down
No,
under. Yeah.
it's the tip of Chris, help us out. You're in the chat. So, yeah. Well, it's funny. When I traveled as a flight paramedic, we were in and out of Canada all the time. I never thought about stopping in a 7-Eleven or, well, whatever you guys have.
Well,
up
we have
there.
7-Elevens too. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I never thought once about
But we don't
stopping.
have Hardee's. I think you have like this big,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Chris says pineapple is fine on its own. Pizza needs no fruit. Absolutely. I
Needs
agree.
no fruit help. I love that.
Vegemite.
Vegemite, that's what it is. Thank you, Vegemite.
Yeah,
Whereas,
just
like, I
come
really
to me.
want to like it, but I haven't been
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah, I haven't tried that. So I keep kidding the owners of the station in Australia. You're going to have to send me a care package. So
It was like I was in Ireland. Liz and I were in Ireland earlier this year, and we'd never had blood pudding, and we tried it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, it was no big deal." Like, we was worried, blood pudding, but I was like, "Oh, it's just food."
yeah. Well, I think us Americans are weird towards food.
In some ways,
If
yeah.
it's not like streamline,
Yeah.
hamburger or meat and tater. That's,
I grew up in a meat and potato family. And the idea of having anything other than potatoes with some meat was just like, what's that?
Yeah. My daughter made something the other night, and she had mashed potatoes and pasta. And I'm like, what are you doing? why do you have these two together?
Yeah.
She's like, the boy wanted it. I'm like, okay, gotcha. He's fine. He's fine. If it keeps him from screaming, I'm all in.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised Chris didn't gig you. He's a Chicago, and so he would say it had to be a deep dish pizza.
Oh my God! You know what? Some of the best pizza. Although you know what, I've rarely met a pizza I didn't love, but there's a place in Hamilton, Ontario that makes the best non-Chicago style pizza that I've ever had, because you can only really get a good one in Chicago at certain places. Just like that thin New York slice.
Yeah. My wife likes that thin paper. I was like, you might as well just put ketchup on a cracker. It's not a pizza.
Yeah. Although, you know what? And again, there's the Detroit style pizza can be good. There's a phenomenal place in Vegas called Good Pie in the Arts District. And every time I go to Vegas, I'm there in Vegas every fall for Author Nation. And every time I go down, I got to go down to Good Pie. And there's I think it's a pound of pepperoni they put on this. I usually split it with a buddy of mine, and it's like, oh my God. And so sometimes there's even stuff left over I can put in my fridge for breakfast, but it is a really phenomenal, and they do different styles of pizza, but they also do a beautiful Detroit style there. Oh, they say pop there.
I was researching for another show, and I went down the food chain, and there's an author that has written, there is a style of hot dog for every state. And I didn't realize. Yeah. And I was like,
I didn't know that.
That is so weird, because I always just thought a hot dog is, it's a hot dog. You can put relish, you can put chili, you can put.
What, do you have like a Chicago style hot dog though?
Yeah,
Chris would know that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. They have a Chicago style.
Yeah.
I do know that. And when I was a flight paramedic, it was real late. We were coming out of Philadelphia, and we told the ambulance crews they were taking us back to the plane. They're like, look, we got to fly to like San Diego or somewhere. We're not going to get stop and eat. Can you guys please stop somewhere? And of course, ambulance guys, they know the best places. And he says, well, have you ever had a genuine Philly? I'm like, well, it's just a Philly sandwich. And I went in there, and I about fell out of the floor when the guy's pouring cheese whiz on the sub. And I turned and looked at the guy that was on the ambulance. He's like, don't say a thing. That's original. I'm like, okay. He goes, do not ask for mayonnaise. I'm like, okay.
What? Are you're not talking about a Philadelphia
sub? Yeah. It has cheese whiz on it, the original. And this is apparently a chain.
Not the one I had, where I watched them make it in this big massive thing at the farmers, like the market downtown. Like that was an experience. It's kind of like seeing the Statue of Liberty or something. Like, whoa.
Well, that was this guy in the middle of the night, and he's like, don't talk to him. Okay.
Wow. Cheese whiz?
Yeah, cheese whiz.
I can make this at home.
Exactly. So I was shocked, and went home and looked it up, and I was like, no kidding, that is one of the originals. So I was like,
one of the original. Oh wow. I guess they made it better over time. It improved like a fine wine.
Yeah, provolone. Yeah, throw that provolone off. Chris says these hardcore hot dog people around here will scream if you put ketchup on a hot dog. It infuriates me.
Oh yeah, that can really upset people, right? Like you just have to have like the right kind of mustard. And then there's other toppings you can do, but ketchup is one that really upsets people. And it's really funny. I grew up being a very fussy eater, but I liked ketchup because it was, mostly sugar and tomato and sugar. And I put ketchup on everything. I even put it on chicken soup once.
Gosh.
I was just obsessed. My parents used to joke that they would need to buy ketchup by the case because I went through so much of it. And now I barely touch ketchup. I mean, I will mix. I love mixing ketchup with mayonnaise. I'm making special sauce or fancy sauce, right? As a nice mixture, and I will use it in some recipes, like some barbecue recipes, right, where you need that base before you can add some other spices and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny. We can have a bottle of ketchup in the house for years, whereas it would be like one a week back in the day. So I used to be one of those people, Chris, but I learned, I grew.
You grew, yeah. My grandson has to have ranch on everything, including his pizza.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are you teaching this kid? Ranch goes on salad and potatoes.
Pizza crust, right? Now, but again, like, you know what? Here's the thing: is I still am a sauce fan. There's a sauce for everything. I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm a spicy guy. I like a a good hot sauce. But you can't put like sriracha on a hot dog. You have to have a special hot sauce. So you put sriracha on the eggs. There's different things, but you can't always have the same hot sauce.
No, and I think there's some really good medleys of hot with another, like a mango habanero or something like that actually plays with the flavor. Because I love like hot wings and insanely hot food. And it was funny. Liz and I were out for dinner the other night, and we had ordered a shawarma. And the guy says, okay, order the shawarma, but ask for the hot sauce on the side. Because we was like, oh, we'll get the hot sauce. He goes, you ask for it on the side. And we're like, no, we really like hot stuff. And it was kind of funny because normally like people call it hot. And I was like, oh, that's like Frank's. You know, it's got some, you know, it's like, oh, pepper, it's spicy, you know, that kind of stuff. But this was a case where, I mean, I ended up putting a lot of it on, but it was kind of like, no, I could see this could really hurt someone. So it was good, and it had this smoky hotness to it too, which really added. So it was a weird combination of the Greek souvlaki. It had some Asian spices in it as well, which was interesting, and then you had that smoky hot, which was just a perfect medley.
I'm on a kick right now. It comes out of California. It's an avocado-based hot sauce.
Oh,
and it's green. It's good.
Oh, I bet you that's because avocado's got like a smoothness to it, and I bet you that cools, so it plays with your mind, right?
Yes. Because you're expecting avocado, and you're like, whoa, this has got a little kick. And of course, it comes in various degrees. When we moved to Atlanta, we went to, I guess, an original Chinese restaurant, and I ordered General Cho, and the waiter looks at me and goes, well, how angry do you want the general? I'm like, what? he goes,
I'm not stealing it from him, am I?
he goes, if you want the general angry, we make it extra spicy. And I'm like, well, how about a pissed off one to start? Next time I come, we'll try.
Slightly perturbed. Yeah,
exactly. And he was right. I have not been able to find another place like that since.
And it was in Atlanta. Okay.
In Atlanta. Yeah. In a little Chinese place in Dunwoody, Georgia. So a little middle of nowhere. And he's like, how angry do you want the general? And I'm like, what? What?
See, I'm going to have to leverage that one because Michael is very sensitive, right, with his taste. So Michael can't handle the hot and spicy. I have a scene where on his and Gail's first date, they have a hot wing eating contest, and she kicks his butt because he can't handle the hotness because his taste buds are so sensitive. I mean, he also can't handle his alcohol, right? So I've got like, yeah.
I thought about that. Yeah, it doesn't digest the same.
Well, I mean, his constitution's relatively good, but he just doesn't drink.
Okay. So, I guess I was thinking more like metabolized different, but yeah. Okay.
So I mean, I have that happen when he goes to LA, and he ends up, because he's like, oh, I've never really had craft beers before. So he's like drinking them like there's no tomorrow. And on his walk home, he goes to stop a mugging, but he's so bombed out of his head that he just gets beaten up half to death. Because he can't, like, he has no coordination and stuff. Because again, the poor guy barely drinks, right? He's like, oh, a glass of wine, that's too much.
That's great. Well, before we get out of here, I know you do a lot of spooky stuff. Have you ever had a paranormal experience or seen a Bigfoot or a werewolf even?
Yeah, I have. I have had that happen. So I just released, I co-authored the book Haunted Hospitals with Rhonda Parrish, and my partner Liz and I were driving down to Orlando for Romance Writers Association. I speak at a lot of writers conferences. So on our way back, we decided to stop in Weston, West Virginia for the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, because Rhonda wrote that chapter, And so she'd done all the research, and I'd only kind of proofread her. So I really wanted to stop there, hold up the book and take pictures. And so Liz and I were going on a tour. So we did the trip from Orlando to Weston, West Virginia in a single day. We get in at 1 a.m. because we want to do the tour first thing in the morning, and then we'll do the second leg of a tour to get back to Ontario, right? Because it's not as long. It's only 10 hours from there or something. And the first hotel, so she's driving, and it's, we're in the mountains, and it's foggy, and I'm all excited because I'm going to this lunatic asylum with all these ghosts. And so we pull into the first hotel, and we didn't book ahead. So I run in, and the parking lot's packed, and there's like, they don't have any rooms. They're like, oh, there's an Econo Lodge just up a few more miles up the road. Check to see there. So I get back in the car, and we go, and like, oh my, just exhausted. And we're thinking like, where we find a Walmart parking lot and sleep somewhere. And so we get to the Econo Lodge, and again, it's packed. Like the parking lot's full. So I run in, and I say, well, do you have a room? And they say, well, we have one. But, and you hear the spooky music, and it's like, but it's like 2 double beds is all we have. And like, I don't care. We just want to sleep. So we check in. We're so happy. We're going to get some sleep, and we're going to go and do the tour at 9 a.m. So we get to the hotel. Liz picks the bed by the bathroom or the washroom, and I pick the one near the door, and she falls asleep right away. She pulls the hoodie up over her head, rolls over, and she is out. And I'm a big chicken, even though I write about this stuff. I'm laying there in a strange room, and I'm thinking about going on a ghost tour the next day, and I can't fall asleep. But I finally fall asleep, and then I wake up. I hear something, and I look up, and I see Liz has gotten up, and she's shuffling in the dark towards the bathroom. And then I'm waiting for her to turn the light on to go into the washroom. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I hear a snore from the bed beside me.
Ooh.
She's sleeping. I'm like, then who was that I saw going into the washroom? So I've made the mistake, because I'm a big chicken. I've made the mistake of waking her up when I'm scared. I don't do that anymore. Like, because you're like, go check for the monsters, hon. I don't do that anymore. I've learned my lesson, because that monster is scarier when I wake her. But so I just like, okay, here's what happened. I told myself, I said, okay, I woke up, I saw Liz go to the washroom, I fell asleep, and I woke up 5 minutes later, and I was in the same position, and I opened my eyes, and I thought a second had passed, but 5 minutes had passed. She's back in bed. Mark, you're overreacting. I did still use my phone to light up the room, and I went and checked. There was nobody there. The lock is still on the door. Okay, we're fine. Nobody could have gotten in. Go back to sleep. Then I wake up a little while later, and I hear like this clunk down where my laptop is at the end of my bed, where the TV and my laptop bag is, and our passports. And so I was like, oh my God, someone's in the room. And I sit up, and I was like, oh my God, someone's going through our stuff. And I check again the lights, and it's like the door between the rooms. Maybe someone came in that way. No, it's locked. And it's like, okay, wow, it was someone upstairs dropped something, and that's what it was. So we get up the next morning, and I was like, we're getting ready. And I was like, so did you get up at all last night? And she's like, no, I didn't get up at all. And I was like, are you sure? And she goes, why? And so I tell her what happened. And now I am a true believer, and she is a skeptic. She does not believe in paranormal things like that. She's very rational, very pragmatic. Her face becomes white as I'm telling her the story. And I go, what? She goes, well, I wasn't going to say anything, but last night when I was laying there sleeping, I felt somebody standing over me. And then I felt a hand touch my shoulder. And it wasn't your hand. It felt like a woman's hand touching my shoulder. So she, being the pregnancy, I would have thought it was a ghost or a monster. She's like, someone broke into the room. So she gets ready, feisty. She's going to swing around and like take her out, right, with a punch, because she's tough, not me. She could do that. And there was no one there. And she thought it was a dream until I told her what I had experienced. I thought I saw a woman, and I thought I heard someone, and she felt a woman. And then we went, oh my God. So did something happen, or was it just our imagination? So yeah, that's a weird thing I just can't explain. And I did some research, and I couldn't find any other stories about that hotel. So
Well, you never know in a hotel what happens. So
Think about all
interesting.
the people, right? And this poor woman, we just felt, and we actually felt sorry for whoever this woman was because she was like, was she trapped there and she couldn't leave?
She's trapped in an Econo Lodge of all
I
places.
know. You could have been at a like a nice resort somewhere.
Yeah, can you put me at least in the Hilton? Come on. So, well, Mark, where can our fans find your stuff, especially in Australia? Or if they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So markleslie.ca is where you can find me, and on all major retailers in Australia and anywhere else is you can find my books under Mark Leslie. And I do have Ghost Stories of the Great Lakes coming out this fall. Now, the Great Lakes are the inland seas in North America that sort of on the border of Canada and the US, and that's the next paranormal, true paranormal book that I have coming out.
Okay. Well, we're going to have you on for that. Have you ever done any Viking research about the Vikings making it up to the
No,
Great Lakes?
no,
Yeah,
no, I didn't. No,
I
wow.
had a guest on tell me that they'd made it all the way up to the Great Lakes. And I was like,
Oh, I
no
would
way.
love to. I'll have to find that episode and listen to it. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I was because I was thinking about that last night. I was like, man, I need to have him back on because he was writing a book then, but I've done I don't know 200 and some episodes, and it's they all at some point begin to run together.
Yeah.
Uh, and I try and read a lot of my authors, my guests, excuse me, books, and so a lot of times I'm like, wait a minute, I remember from that book. So I'm definitely going to have to read yours because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. So
Awesome. I will make sure I send you some of those, my friend.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll shoot you an email, and you can have Mickey when you get closer to time to
I
hook
will
us
let
up.
Mickey know, yeah, as that book's coming out in the fall too. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And if you're doing a book tour and you come through Atlanta, just holler at me. So.
Or I'm saying in the fall, but if for our Australian listeners in the spring.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
see, I
That's
see
true.
I can speak Australian too, because I'm one of those Commonwealth countries.
All right, Mark, have a great night. And all of this will be in the show notes by the weekend. So I'll make sure to put the links in there if you're
Awesome.
listening on WZQR, WRFN, or even Radio Australia and you want to come over. Mark, have a great night. We'll talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
Mr. Cat. Take care.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Is Jen is gonna hate she missed this. It was a great episode, but as you know, we have two guests every week, and if you hang around just a few more minutes, you can find out. Well, maybe some vampire lore. We're talking werewolves and vampires this episode. Things are getting weird on the Sportcat Show.
Broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
And hello, everybody. Welcome back to hour 2 of the Sportcat Show, formerly known as the Paranormal Guys. We are going to be having a great guest now. I'm tongue-tied. Todd Sullivan, he has written a vampire series based out of Asia, and it's fascinating, and I've actually read all 3 of them already. So let me bring Todd out here. Hey, Todd, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. I saw you were in Atlanta for the for a book tour, and I was like, dang it, I wish I'd known. I live in Atlanta, so.
Yeah, it was. It was actually a really great experience. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was an all-day affair. So it was really a lot of fun. Met a lot of really cool people while I was there. And only a little bit of rain. So it was actually fantastic.
Well, here in Atlanta, it can come and go. We weren't expecting any today, and we got heavy downpours. So,
Right.
welcome to the South. Now, Todd, where you're originally from? Where?
I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I lived there until I was 18 years old.
Okay, and then you went to school in Georgia for a while.
Right. Yeah. I graduated from Georgia State in 2006, so quite a long time ago.
Not that years. If you're like me, that was yesterday. And then you traveled abroad and you spent many years overseas where you were also teaching.
Right. After Georgia State, 2006, I attended Queens College in New York from 2007 to 2009. And then in August 2009, after I graduated, I went to Korea, and I was there for altogether it was 14 years. It was 2 years in Taiwan.
Wow. What made you go from New Orleans to all the way up to New York and then like overseas?
New York was a place I always wanted to go. When I graduated, when I was in high school, I applied to only 2 schools, and one of them was Tisch School of the Arts. But I did not get into Tisch, so I ended up coming here to Atlanta. But New York was always one of my life goals, to live in New York, and so that's why I finally got an opportunity to go there for my master's. And then Asia, I have a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, and generally speaking, you have a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, you're most likely going to teaching. The question is where, and I ended up teaching in Asia.
Okay. How was that? I mean, was that a culture shock?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is quite different. It changed over the years. Like when I went there in 2009, I was living on an island called Jeju, which is at the southernmost tip of South Korea. So it's like right down to the bottom. I've never lived on an island before, so that was the first. The culture of work, I was teaching there, so the culture of work is quite different from America. The culture of how people interact with each other, how they talk to each other, you have to really know. Like right now, if we were in Korea, I would actually ask you your age, and that way I would know how to refer to you, and then what kind of grammar when I talk to you. Which is not anything we do, of course. We just, if I ask you your age, I would probably be considered rude. But there is actually just part of how things work. So there were really quite a lot of differences that you kind of have to adjust to once you move to Asia.
Now, did you start writing while you were over there, or was it after you came home?
No, I started writing probably not long after I learned how to read and write. It was just, actually at that thing you mentioned, that conference, I was asked this question several times when did I start writing. And yeah, I mean, I've always written. It came very natural to me. I had stories, and back in the day, actually, you probably know this, but younger people don't. There used to be those yellow flip notebooks, the little flip pads, and I would fill those up with different little stories. Yeah, I've always written.
Okay. And have you always had a love for spooky or horror type things?
No, once again, like people who are younger won't really understand this, but when I was growing up in the 80s, there was like all of 4 or 5 channels, and then in the summer we had cable, so we had more channels than that. But on Saturday, they used to show like the Creature Feature, I think it was called. They used to show horror movies on Saturday. And I'm the 5th of 6 kids. I had an older sister who was really, really into horror. She loved Stephen King. She loved horror movies. And since she was older, she got the remote control. And that's why I started watching horror. And that's why I kind of got into horror, because, that's what she enjoyed watching.
In New Orleans, you had plenty of experience with vampires too, because supposedly that's one of the areas, if they do exist, they're prevalent.
Yeah, that's Anne Rice. I'm sure your audience knows Anne Rice. I remember when I first heard of Anne Rice too. I was in the car with my mom and one of my older brothers, and he had just read Interview with the Vampire. And I think that the way he described it had some kind of influence on me as I developed writing over the years. Because the way he described it is written as if there was an actual vampire who sat down with a journalist and told them this really incredible story. So it seemed very realistic. But yeah, I mean, New Orleans, I grew up with the garlic reef on like the windowsill in order to keep out bad birds and stuff like that. And of course, in New Orleans, there's the very famous voodoo house, like in the French. I forget the name of it now. But yeah, I had a lot of. It's a very big cultural thing in New Orleans.
Yeah, black magic too, which I don't know if that's true, real or not either. But I'm not going to tempt fate. But
well, one of my favorite movies was Angel Heart. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, so you're right. I mean, that was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Yeah, I won't tempt fate on that. So when you decided to do the vampire series, by the way, I've loved all three of them. I've left
Thank you.
5-star reviews on Amazon. And I, at first, when I got it, I was like, okay, this is a different vampire. And these, these, it appears, work for a corporation, and pretty much they could be viewed as Americans where we're just burnout and going through the motions.
They do work for a corporation throughout all three books, except in the last one. The word actually does it come up in the last one? But anyway, the word vampire doesn't really come up in the book. Though they're on the back of the blurb. They're called employees, and they
Yes.
do work for something called the Guanlo, which is Korean for government. And they are hired. They are hired into this organization, which is, the way I always tell people when they ask me what is this series about, I tell them that it's really about having a very, very bad job for the rest of your life. And that's what they have. They have a terrible job and they can't get out of it, but it's very, very difficult to get out of it.
Yeah, the perks when they're recruiting sounds really great, and then they say, well, no matter what your decision is now, either way you're going with us. So
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the idea of Interview with the Vampire, the way I was trying to write this is as realistically as possible. If vampires existed, how would they manage to do it without being detected or caught over the time that they've existed? And I mean, if you offer someone this position, they can't turn it down. I mean, that's just or else they would go and tell people. And so there's it's really what is it from that movie, The Godfather? It's make them an offer you can't refuse. Isn't that the line?
yes, yes, make him an offer you can't refuse. Yeah. um yeah, I love the series, I love the premise. And one of the things that I really like about your characters that I guess I would have never thought about in vampire lore, they're fast, they fly, they can jump, they can do things, but if they're interacting with humans, they have to slow down and intentionally do things at a different pace than what's natural to them.
Yeah, I came up with that from having a conversation online in a writing group a very long time ago. But to me, it doesn't really. I think you gotta kind of wonder, like a Superman, particularly a Superman that exists today that moves multiple times the speed of light, and they can destroy planets, and they have all this really, really powerful thing. But somehow or another, they manage to walk amongst humans and not cause damage when they move, and it feels like they would have to either they are normal and then they somehow manage to make themselves really strong and really powerful when the time comes, or else, which I think is the case, they're really, really, really powerful, but somehow managing to like move around and not hurt people when they bump into them. And so that's kind of where the idea comes from. I mean, I think that you would constantly be trying to damper your abilities when you move around. If you don't want to be caught, if you don't want to be known for what you are, then that's what you have to do. Which is very similar. I'm actually rereading for the multiple time Lord of the Rings. And something that Gandalf does. Gandalf, he moves through the world of humans, but he doesn't really show his true power. He's always, keeping it down, except when he really, really has to. And so it's kind of like a similar idea.
Did one thing I was going to ask you about, and when they get a contract, they talk about they will increase or decrease the power. How does the corporation control that?
How do they control it? I mean, I guess it's kind of like a tab. I mean, like a dampening device. It's all magic, and so they are able to, because they want to keep control of the employees, and so they have some of them like Minjay, who is one who takes out the employees that have gone too far rogue. So for him, he's not really dampened. He's able to operate more or less at his full power. But I mean, for instance, if someone were to become a vampire today, you really wouldn't want them to be at their full power, just kind of going around because you have to keep secret all the time. And so the organization, again, it's magic. They make sure that the vampires don't go overboard until they are more conditioned by the organization, more in line with the organization, and then over time, their powers are kind of released a little bit more, so they could do a little bit more than they could when they were first hired.
Okay. Yeah. There's the training period, and I don't remember which one, but I think it was the first one where they had her in the room, and when she comes to, she just went completely nuts and like ripped somebody's eye out.
Well, in the first book, Butcher is the character Sammy is being trained. She is the human who. This is the only book in which, well, at the end of the last one, but it's the only one we really see how the hiring process works and how the what do you call it when you first get a job? You're on the probation, yeah, probation period works too. And so, yeah, she is the one that you really see how this process works.
Yeah, and the thought of food makes him physically sick. The taste of it makes him sick too.
Yeah, it makes them extremely ill. But again, in order to maintain the illusion, then they do eat. I mean, that's just part of the requirement. And this is, again, it's supposed to be a really bad job. And so they are doing something that's counterintuitive. They are doing something they don't like. They're doing something that's physically repulsive, but that's the job. And if you ever have a really, really bad job, I think that people can identify with that.
Yeah, we all have. Everybody has at some point. And then in the second one, the plot line thickens. One of the characters finds her abusive uncle and lets a spirit out, I guess, so to speak.
That's actually like most of the characters are kind of based upon people that I've met. And when I was teaching at elementary school in Korea, 14 years ago, I met there was a girl who was I met her maybe she was in third grade. And she comes in one day with a black eye. And I mentioned this to the teacher, what's going on with this girl with this black eye? And the teacher told me that her father had either passed away or disappeared. Her mom had gone away too, and she was left with her uncle. And her uncle had a history of being really abusive towards her. And that's a really terrible situation. But then this girl in like maybe fifth grade, everything that happened to her over the years just seemed to kind of spill out. And her behavior in class was really, really bad in fifth and sixth grade. And that's how I came up with Harry. I think that Harry has a reason, let's not say good, but a reason to behave the way she does. And now that she's powerful and she's a rogue employee, she goes after her uncle. And it becomes more complicated from there. But yeah, the idea of Harry is based upon someone that I taught a very long time ago now.
Oh, wow. In their culture, how is that viewed? I mean, here in America, that's a horrible thing. Is it pretty much the same over there? Or?
It is no. I mean, I was the second to last job I taught at. We had an incident in which we had to get involved. Well, the school had to get involved with one of the kids who was suspected of being abused. Back then, though, it wasn't. I mean, she ended up continuing living with her uncle, and so I don't really know what exactly happened with that. I do know it had a very negative effect upon her behavior going forward. And I can only imagine this is 14 years ago, so she would be in her 20s. Yeah, I would only imagine that she probably has not changed that much, but maybe she has. I don't know.
Hopefully, and hopefully it got better. Yeah, I don't think anybody listened to kids until I don't know, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, because it seemed like you just didn't hear this type thing. Maybe I was naive, but it wasn't really that it started coming to the forefront. And of course now, it's repulsive. So some of the things. So
when there are situations we find out, like, the child was unfortunately being abused for years and just kept one thing happen after another, but it didn't resolve the issue. And then eventually it comes out to how bad the abuse was. And I would put her in that category. She had a terrible childhood, and it just never seemed to, as far as I know, never was resolved.
That was good. Now, do you think you were processing some of that in your storytelling?
Yeah, I mean that's literally where Harry comes from. The girl's name wasn't Harry. I forget what her name was, but yeah, that's literally where she comes from. I mean, she is the behavior of the student in question. You know, if you teach, people who teach, they know that they are the best students, they're the good students, they're the mediocre students, they are the not very good students, the bad students, and then the students who are just push limits in a way that no other students do. And that's how she was. And so Harry goes against the system in these really extreme ways. But yeah, she was definitely just based upon this girl. But of course, this is like a dark fantasy or horror. So
Any of the other characters in your book based on similar things?
Yeah. Desmond is a typical expat in Korea working teaching English. Just trying to go about his life. Maybe he meets someone there, like someone who's Korean there. Maybe he gets married, things like that. Originally, Save Me, because this is the story of this is kind of complicated. It was I actually wrote a book when I was living in Jeju, the island again, Jeju, called Natural Police. And it was the first thing I ever had accepted for publication. It was accepted by this small indie publisher called Zorme. And they held on to it for a year and a half, and then they went out of business. And then I couldn't get Natural Police picked up by anyone else. But originally, Sami's name was Jong Hyung, which is why I changed it, because it's actually quite a hard name to pronounce. And already people have told me that the names in the books are hard for them to pronounce in their head. I actually did go in and change all the names to things that I thought would be the easiest for Westerners to pronounce, like Harry, Sami, Story. These are kind of easy. Minjae, Mingyang. But Jonghyung is actually difficult. But that's also, Sami is actually also based upon someone that I met in Korea.
Okay. All right. That I find it so interesting. And when you were teaching over there, 14 years, right?
Right. Not really. I was in Korea for 14 years. I took Korean, like I stopped teaching and took the Korean language to study Korean for 3 years. So I taught in Korea for 11 years and I taught in Taiwan for 2.
Oh, okay. Is there a big difference between Korea and Taiwan? I've never been.
There is, but unfortunately, I moved to Taiwan October 2019, and then COVID happened in 2020. And so I didn't really get a good experience of Taiwan. Like, however Taiwan was at a normal time, I didn't get it. But I mean, from what I saw, there were some differences. But again, my experience in Taiwan during COVID was pretty difficult.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I think the whole world changed with
Right.
COVID. So, I mean, I don't think. I mean, we have we'll say a generation, but we have a younger students coming up who didn't graduate. They they went, for like almost 2 years online, like we're doing to school. I think we're going to start seeing some. I wouldn't say developmental, but social interaction skills are decreased, or I would think so.
No, it was there after the pandemic ended, and then classes began normally, like classes in person. There was definitely a change in the behavior of not all the students. I think mostly, in my opinion, who was affected were the more introverted students. The more introverted students having 2 years at home and not being out there, it really didn't work out well for them. And so I think the more introverted students had the biggest effect. Maybe the extroverted students, not so much. But yeah, the introverted students, there was just a massive difference between after COVID and then when I was teaching I taught for 10 years, about 10 years before. So there's a really big difference.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about if there was a virus like COVID that could only go through vampires? How would that work?
Well, that's one when you are offered a job, that's one of the perks you get. You don't get sick. So yeah, I mean you don't get sick. There's no illness. Have money. You don't have to worry about these kind of things. I mean, there's a catch to all of it, but yeah, I mean that's one of the pitches.
What is it saying? There's no free rides.
Right, there are none. Everything has a price.
Exactly. And you had them as price of immortality, corporate slaves, and they all do different things. So that, how did you come up with, I won't say the job descriptions, but the things they did in their society, within their society of the vampires? How did you come up with that cast of characters?
It happened organically. Again, the first people that I really came up with were the natural police. So that's like Simi, Minjay. Those are the first ones because they were the ones who kind of kept all the other employees in line. So I started off with them. And then when I had the idea of the prospects, of the humans that were being kind of followed for employment, I kind of thought of a word from prospects. It could have been anything, but I thought of prospects. But then I figured someone has to be in contact with the prospects to make sure that they are not falling into any of the quote unquote traps that a prospect could fall in, which might make them refuse a job. So that would be the contact. And then someone's always also watching to make sure everything is going well with the situation at large. And that's the observer. Since it's contracts, you need a lawyer of some type or advocate. And then since it's a company, you need a manager. And then since it's kind of a mysticism in there, you have seers. And then there's the the people who are over the manager, like the people in the company, a group of people in the company
The
that
CEOs.
I'm sorry.
The CEOs.
Yeah, the CEOs, I guess, the suits. I mean, there's a lot of different positions that there's someone. I think in book two, in book two, there was someone who's over the humans, the enhanced humans. There's someone over that. I forget what the name I used for that. But really, whenever there's a position like a subplot, a plot point that needs to be that exists, then there's some type of corporate jargon I could probably use for it.
Okay. Now, you've written other series too, as well, correct?
Yeah, the Windshine Chronicles. That is a fantasy series. Also takes place in Korea. I started writing that around the same time. No, I started writing it after. Actually, I started writing it much after Natural Police. That was probably several years later. And there's also 3 books: Hollow Men, There Will Be One, and Blood Stew.
Okay. And it's also based as a horror type book, correct?
It's not supposed to be. Actually, it's
Okay.
the fantasy series and the vampire series are 2 sides of the same coin. 2 sides of the same coin. This is an expression. And so, if the horror series is about working a very bad job for the rest of your life, the fantasy series is about following your dreams and not allowing anything to stop you from achieving it. And even if you do fail it, you fail it going forward. So you might not in the fantasy series. Many people don't actually reach the end because it is very hard to achieve big things. But they don't give up. They keep going forward, and so that's the fantasy series is what happens if you keep going forward, if you keep trying, and then if you do give up, you happen to the horror series, which is why you end up being something, doing something you really wish you were not every single day.
Any crossovers between the two?
There are no crossovers because the fantasy series takes place in the medieval version of South Korea, and then this series takes place in modern day.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to check the fantasy series out. I've loved all your stuff so far.
Thank you.
And everything so far is a trilogy, right? Or are you doing more?
It's a one series. So the 4th in the fantasy series, which I have not finished, it will probably be a long time before I do, but I have started it. It's called the Many Faces of Horangi. Horangi means tiger in Korean. And then the 4th in the horror series, I haven't started it, but I know who the main antagonist will be. It's based upon a story that I wrote called The Scent Made Him Plunge. And also another story that I wrote called Wheels and Deals. But actually, book 2, The Great Man of Smoking Shadows, is part of the antagonist of book 4.
Okay. How long does it take you to write a book?
For the novellas, because it's like novellas and novels, the first 2 books in these series are novellas. So those are about 30,000 words, which comes out to about 130 pages. So 30,000 words. I tend to write. This is kind of a depend question because if I'm really busy at a certain time, I write less. But generally speaking, I write about 10,000 words a month. And so for the novella, it probably takes about 3-ish months, depending on if I'm not extremely busy. about 3 months to write first draft, and then I belong to critique groups, and so I generally have it looked at by a host of people, strangers, so I could get like a really real opinion, like a honest, raw opinion, and that's probably another 3 months. So I guess altogether, the novellas take about 6 months to write. The novels, the issue with the novels is that I never write them straight, and so it's even though I can write about 10,000 words. I'll start the novel. I'll write like 20,000 words. Then I'll stop for several months. Then I'll write another 30,000 words. Then I'll stop for several months. And so, A Soul a Day and Blood Stew each took me about 3 years to complete.
Okay. Now, when you start the novel, do you already know the ending? Are you the type of artist, author that has a script where it's all written out, or do you kind of go by the seat of your pants?
I kind of know the ending. Yeah, I kind of know the ending. Yes, I mean it may shift. I mean, definitely A Soul a Day was the most changing around chapters that I've done in anything I've written, and so I kind of know where I want to go. The thing though is that since for me this is a series and not a series, there's not really an ending. There just needs to be an ending to the main action. That's how I think about it. So I know there's going to be, I kind of know what the ending of the main action is going to be. There's not like a ending because I know there's going to be like a book 4, book 5, book 6.
Okay. And you were talking about action. You have a lot of martial arts in there. You also are a practicer of martial arts.
Right. When I was living in Atlanta for 10 years, I did fencing. I did fencing for about 5 years, and then I did 1 year of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Capoeira, JKD. And then when I moved to Korea for the past 16 years, I've been doing something called, in Korean, it's called Kendo, but it's really hard to say in Korean. It's much easier. It comes from Japan. In Japan, it's just Kendo. Kendo is really easy to say. So I've been doing Kendo for the past, like I started in 2011. So I've been doing it since 2011. No, 2010, 2010 maybe I started. So I've been doing it since
That's
2010.
that's the one with the swords.
Yeah, you use a bamboo sword, and then you wear a mask, and then like a chest plate, and then like a leather groin protector, and then you wear gloves.
I was going to say that has to hurt.
It can hurt. Yeah, I mean, you were going really fast, really hard because you're trying to get through people's defense. And so, yeah, I mean, it can be quite painful. It can be quite painful when people hit you correctly, but extremely painful when they hit you incorrectly.
I can imagine. Uh, I think I'll pass. What made you decide to start doing that? That's
Because there wasn't fencing in Jeju. Because I was
okay.
doing fencing before and there wasn't fencing. And then, funny enough, when I was doing fencing here in Atlanta, I used to do it. Well, people who are not from it won't know, but there's a night club Northeast that was in Atlanta that the fencing club with me at. And when I was there, my last like year there, Kendo started. Kendo started like the cafeteria on like 2 days a week. And so I actually talked to one of the people there, and I remember thinking to myself how silly it looked, but it stayed in my mind. And then when I went to Korea and there was no fencing, I decided, but Kendo is really popular throughout Asia. It's really popular, so I figured I'd give it a try, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, I think actually here in the part of Atlanta where I live, I think there's a no, the dojo for one here in East Atlanta. So,
Yeah, there's
uh,
like 5 here. I believe 4 or 5 here.
and you probably one of my paramedics that I worked with. He was very big into fencing here in Atlanta. He would always be gone on weekends and stuff. He loved it, so he would always post pictures of it. So probably met him. So
I mean, if I haven't met him, I've known people who have met him because a lot of the people I did fencing with back in 1997 to 2006 are still doing it. So I'm pretty sure if I haven't met him, I've met people who know him. Actually, I'm positive of that.
yeah. So how long have you been back in the States now?
Since March 2025.
Oh, whoa. Well, that's kind of recently. I mean, figuratively. So
Yeah, it's like been 14 months, 15 months, something like that.
yeah, yeah. What's been something you miss about being over there?
I miss Kendo has competitions. and I miss doing competitions in Kendo. There are competitions here, but they're much more difficult to do. They're more farther away. They're not as often. But I miss the competitions. That's really became the best part of doing Kendo for me. It's a really high intensity time. It's when you are extremely focused. You're calculating things really, really fast because Kendo is one of the more difficult, I guess you could say sports that there is, because you only have to score 2 points to win. Like that's it. So you don't have a lot of time to like warm up. You don't have a time to come back. And it's only 3 minutes, so you have to score 2 points in 3 minutes. You can lose extremely quickly.
Oh wow! I've never seen. Are they called matches?
Well, it's called Shihop, but I guess match, right?
Okay. Well, okay. I've never seen one. I'm gonna have to YouTube that and check it out. What about food coming back here? I'm sure a lot more processed and fake stuff here as opposed to there.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, the food that I miss there, which I wish I could get here. There's a place called Kilchung Chicken. There's a chicken place. It's a Korean style chicken, and there used to be one in New York. I actually first ate it when I was living in Queens. There was one near my apartment. Funny enough, and then when I went to Korea, I used to eat in Korea because it reminded me of America. And now that I'm back in America, I want to eat it again because it will remind me of Korea. And I can't get it anywhere because the one in New York closed, and there's one in like LA, which I wouldn't go to LA just to get it. So Kilchon chicken, I really miss. I miss something called galbi, which if you go to Korea, you'll probably end up eating it, which is just Korean barbecue. I really miss that too. And I also miss I've been here a few times and had sushi, but I lived in Japan, Tokyo for 5 weeks, and then Korea, where there's a really big Japanese influence. And so I miss eating sushi in Asia. I've had it here, but it doesn't compare.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would. It, well, Americans, we like our burgers and our pizzas and stuff, you know.
Right.
It's probably not much of that overseas, I wouldn't think.
No, they are. There's Papa John's, there's Pizza Hut, there's Domino's, there's McDonald's, there's Burger King, there's Kentucky, there's Popeyes. It's all over there.
I guess we've what do you call it? Westernized the world. So
Yeah.
that's weird. I would never want to travel somewhere out of the country and go, I want a Big Mac. No, I think I want to try the local stuff. So that wouldn't to me even be very good. So what so what other worlds have you thought about putting your characters in?
You mean these particular characters?
Yeah, the vampires, because I know you mentioned that like they could transfer to the Americas and stuff. Have you already thought about?
Oh, right. Yeah. I had a story published called what was the name of the story? Something about shadows. Shadows in the light. Yeah, shadows in the light. That was my first in a long time. That's my first vampire story that took place in America. And I recently wrote another story called Papa Father's Blade. But yeah, I mean, it was still exist in the same narrative universe. So it was still they still kind of operate under similar rules of trying to stay undetected. Not they don't call themselves vampires either. But the main difference with the vampires here is that pain becomes kind of like a aphrodisiac for them, or kind of like a potent, kind of like a high, basically. So that's that main difference between the vampires here that I've written in America and the ones in Korea.
Yeah, I noticed in the ones in Korea, it was almost like an attraction, like a sexual attraction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's very typical in vampires, though. You know, one of my favorite movies was Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, and that was extremely erotic. I mean, I love that movie. I watched it so much that I can't watch it anymore because I've just seen it far too many times. But if you think of like, Interview with the Vampire, Vampire Lestat, like many vampire movies, it's a very typical aspect of the vampire genre.
Do you think vampires could exist?
I Don't know. I mean, if they do, they've been very good at keeping it secret. Like they going even farther than what I could think of, because nowadays there are just cameras. Like in Korea, this is one of the reasons why I pointed out in the book. There's something called CCTV. I mentioned that to people here, and they get kind of confused with what that means. But just all over Korea, there's CCTV. There are cameras all over the place. And so, if they exist there and somehow manage to escape the cameras, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I think we're getting them here now, called flocks.
Right, yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I guess most of the bigger cities, it's already kind of spreading out. Working in public safety, I've seen a little bit of the inner workings of them. I think they have a lot of good possibilities, but like anything, even a superpower, it could also have some bad possibilities. So
Right, definitely so. But it would make it very difficult for vampires to exist. You have to be, as a vampire, you have to be very creative if you want to stay undetected.
yeah, well, unless they're like alien, I mean,
That's
you
true.
never know. I don't think we're alone, so in the world. So who knows?
Right, definitely so.
With the government coming out with all the stuff they have, there's a possibility that we might be the ones that are
I think I
doing
saw
it.
a movie about this. I watched a lot of movie recap. There's so many ideas out there that I've never really thought of. That does sound familiar, but yeah, you're right. If it's an alien, maybe they could pull it off.
Yeah, that would be scary. Oh, they've been living off of us for a long time. You just didn't know it. Wait, what?
Right.
And they're all based out of New Orleans, so they.
I mean, if you think about at least Bram Stoker's version of Dracula, I mean, he could walk during the day. Once he had his feed, he looked young again. So, I mean, he could definitely exist without anyone really knowing anything about it. The only problem with that that would create a bit of an issue. But he himself could probably easily exist even with cameras and not be known.
I guess I've had a thing for vampires because I was thinking there's a comic book series, I think it's called The Rednecks, and it's a vampires that are filmed in the Southwest. They're all ranchers, and they've had the farm. They've been around for hundreds of years, and there's like I won't say like a good versus bad, but there's like one family that doesn't like the other, and every now and then they get into skirmishes. And so I enjoyed that series as much.
I will say that vampires could easily exist in countries around the world that are not as modern. Because I can think of I tried to go there, but I couldn't make it. Mongolia, these kind of vast places that there's a lot of land that's just in the wild. Maybe Alaska too, but there are places that if it's not very modern, there's not all these cameras everywhere, there's not a lot of people, then they could. That almost version to like a werewolf. I mean, they could also exist in these kind of unmodern places out in the wild.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught any the first hour. His werewolf lived in New York City and was a lot like Spider-Man. So as far as he tried to put the parallels there, I'm gonna have to check his stuff out. I love reading my guest stuff. Some of it is so great, and I appreciate y'all for hooking me up. I'm reading more now than when I got out of college. I said I'm never reading another book again. Reading more now than I think I did when I was a child, and loving it. So when you're relaxing, what do you read?
Right now, I'm reading this. I do reviews for my online magazine, and I'm reading one book a month to do a review on. I'm reading "Looking at Women, Looking at War." This is by Ukrainian war journalist who was actually eventually killed, and it's it's very depressing, that's for sure. But it's very interesting to see how it was through their eyes on the ground. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Okay, that's not very uplifting. How do you get out of the darkness?
They go towards it. It's what I always find kind of interesting about it is how they don't how they keep going about their lives. I mean, it's like that's the point she makes in the book. What else are they supposed to do? I mean, and so it's kind of sad because these people are being what's happening to them. But in the end, they still go about their lives. I mean, they don't just like curl up into a ball and like give up. They continue struggling. They continue trying to survive, and that is in a way kind of uplifting in that people don't just give up. So in a way, kind of spiritually, uh, that's it's interesting to read about.
Yeah, we were taught a class by some Israeli firefighters. I was a hazmat technician, and they talked about it's a common thing to have explosions and bombs in Israel, and they said people just go on about their normal lives, and our government tries to within 24 hours have it put back to the way it was.
Hmm.
And I'm like, here in the States, that just wouldn't be possible. There would be so much red tape and trauma and but you're right, they do, they just go on with it. And but I guess in one way we're blessed to live in a culture where we don't have to worry about that, but they have to adapt and overcome.
When I was living in Korea, and like my first year there was a submarine sinking of Korean soldiers, and then it was kind of blamed on North Korea. And really, the talk in Korea, I don't know how it came across in the news, but the talk in Korea was that they were at war, they never stopped the war. But I guess restarting the hostilities was imminent. And I mean, you have to really have been there to understand what the mood of the place was at that time. But again, I woke up in the morning, I got on my bus, I went to work, I taught, I ate lunch, I came home. So in the end, what is there to be done except just try to keep going forward?
Yeah, it's rich men above us that control things that we'll never we'll never have.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And I'm assuming it's like that all over the world. I mean,
Right. It is. Yeah. I mean, it's just unfortunately the way life works right now.
yeah. You talked about Mongolia is one place you hadn't been to yet. What's one place that's on your bucket list still?
I've actually already been there, but I always wanted to live in Japan. I only visited there for 5 weeks, but I've always wanted to live in Japan. I would like to go to, funny enough, I'd like to go to Nigeria. I've always been kind of interested in it. When I was in Taiwan, I met this guy from Nigeria who was really cool. We worked on a screenplay together, a web series, and then we co-wrote some plays that were performed on Christmas Day about 3 years ago. They came off really well. So Nigeria would be cool. Australia is another place I would like to go.
It's a big world. Um, and you're young, you got plenty of time. So,
I'm not that young. I'm not that young. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that, but I'm not that young.
well, I think you have time. Now, let me ask you this. One of the questions we ask every guest, and I know you talk about the horror and the vampires. First off, are you scared by any of this stuff?
No, not really. Funny enough, I'm not really a big horror movie fan or horror book reading fan because it does unsettle me. I mean, I have a very vivid thoughts in my head, and so when I watch things like it took me forever to watch the first version of the thing. But yeah, things like that, they kind of stick with me a bit longer, so I kind of avoid them. I don't know if I'm afraid of it, but I guess disturbed by it would be the better response.
Okay, that's fair. Now, have you ever had a paranormal experience or seen a ghost or some other type of
So
creature?
what I was thinking of is that when I first came to Atlanta, and I was 18 years old, and I had caught the MARTA to wherever the MARTA stop is to go to Little Five Points. I was walking
Mhm.
with a friend, and it was like going towards evening, twilight. So the sky was getting darker, but it was still a blue day, like a blue sky day. I'm just walking down the street, cars are passing. I look up and I see this bulb in the sky. And I really freak out. I'm like, I point to my friend, like, look at this bulb. I mean, what is this thing? It's just like there hovering in the sky. It's not doing anything. And I'm wondering why in the world is no one else kind of freaking out about this bulb that's hanging in the sky? And then I actually looked it up. He pointed this out to me. It was an aerial marker ball. Aerial marker ball. So
Wow.
it's actually attached to the power line. But I didn't see the
Okay.
power line. all I saw was just this bulb hanging in the sky. And so that was my mistake of what I thought it was. But at the moment, I was really I couldn't understand why everyone wasn't so amazed that there's just bulb just hanging in the sky. But that's why. It's just technology. It wasn't really anything.
Well, I mean, if you've never seen one, yeah. I mean,
I think I have. I mean, it's just the way that one looked. Maybe it was just I was excited. I had just gotten, it was my first year in Atlanta, so I wasn't thinking clearly. But at the moment, it was really amazing to me, startling.
anything else since then? I mean,
Not really. I mean, there is paganism, some paganism that still exists in Jeju. And when you walk around, you will see, interesting things. You'll see rock formations that people in the island do. You see statues that people in the island do. Different things for good luck. But when it comes to paranormal, yeah, I was thinking about it, but nothing of interest, unfortunately, came to mind.
do you believe in that type of thing? Some people just don't even believe in it.
No, I do. I watch a lot of science videos, physics videos, cosmology videos, and no, I do. I don't think that we're only like. I don't believe in like. I'm not like a materialist where there's only like, just the physical thing and there's nothing else. I do think that there is, like, I'm writing a book right now, and in the book, it's a literary fiction, so it takes place in the mundane world. But there's the idea of a nudger, something that kind of nudge you, doesn't force you, but it nudges you in directions. And I do believe that. I do believe that there, wherever it is, but that we're not just like, making our own decisions all the time, anything like that. No, I do believe that there is something that here and there nudges you. And then, you could go in this direction. You don't have to because it's a nudge, but still, it would probably be best if you did. So I do believe in that.
Interesting. Does it have a voice or a physical feeling to it?
In the story, again, this is literary fiction, so you have to be careful how. While I feel that I have to be careful in how I write, I don't want the version to fantasy, but it comes across as yes and no. Yes, it has a form, it has a presence, but it's not anything like that would make again people think that this is like fantasy.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, are like voices in your head, I guess, also. So
No, in this one, there's no voice in the head. No, it's just like if you were not going to talk to somebody for whatever reason, maybe you didn't like the way the person looked, or maybe you just kind of intimidated by the person, and then nudger comes and nudges you, and then you have some decision to do it or not. But it's probably better if you did because something could really come of it. So that's really more or less how I kind of describe in the book. It's the nudger.
okay. What's next for you? Obviously that.
I actually have a werewolf. I wrote an essay about this, the werewolf conundrum. It's a werewolf book that I'm also writing, but again, this is probably gonna be like a 3-year project called Moon to Moon. And that book starts off in Korea, but one of the reasons why I stopped it is because I knew it was gonna have to come back to America. I want to come back to America first before I start working on it again, or before I start working on the book again. But now that I'm writing this book, I need to finish this, and then maybe I'll go back to that. So Moon to Moon is a werewolf book that I'm working on, and then eventually I have to go back to the Many Faces of Horangi, which is the 4th in the fantasy book, and then the 4th in the horror series, which so far is untitled.
Okay. Now you're also doing the book tours too, right?
Yeah, I mean, since I've been back, I joined the Atlanta Writers Club. Shout out to them. Anyone who's really interested in writing, publishing, agents, wherever that comes with the publishing world, I would suggest that you join the Atlanta Writers Club. I joined them as soon as I came, and they've been really fantastic. And so I'm a part of that.
Okay. Cool. So are you here in Atlanta?
I am. I live here in Atlanta. Yes, this is where I'm back to Atlanta after 19 years.
Ah, well, welcome to Atlanta.
It's changed a lot. Midtown's changed a lot. Bucket has changed a lot. It's many changes in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, yeah. I moved here in 2001, right after 9/11, actually,
Hmm.
and worked for the fire department. Yeah, lots of changes just since I've been here. We live out on Gwinnett, and that used to be a suburb. Not anymore. So
Yeah.
you got to be further out now. So yeah, but I do like a lot of things that come with the city because if you want something, no matter what time of day it is, you can pretty much get it. When I go back to Knoxville, where all my family's from, the town rolls up at like 8 o'clock at night. I mean, it's the craziest thing. The grocery stores are closed. I'm like, what? Why is the grocery store closed at 8 o'clock? It's the weirdest thing. So, but
That's one thing I kind of miss about Asia in general, because this was in Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. I'm only assuming other places too, which is that everything you can find most of anything you want to do within walking distance. So there are things that fall that way, but if you want to find the restaurants, there are many around. If you want to find places to study at, there's plenty around. It's just like everything is always within walking distance. Whereas here in Atlanta, you have to have a car. I mean, it's just there's
yes.
really no way around it.
And well, you know the joke. If you're going across the street to visit your neighbor, you leave an hour ahead of time because of the traffic. So,
Right. Yeah.
uh,
The traffic here is awful. Yeah. It hasn't improved in all these years.
no, the missus has to be at work at like some ungodly hour, like 4 or 5 in the morning, and she leaves like an hour and a half early. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
I was I was lucky. We worked one day on, 2 days off, so I caught one rush hour going to work, and then on the way home, it was like smooth sailing. So then I
Yeah.
didn't have to worry about it for 2 days.
That's always fantastic, actually, when you miss the
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah, I don't know that I could go to a 9 to 5 job. It'd probably kill me. So Todd, where if anyone listening, especially Australia, and this will be replayed in Florida over the weekend and in Nashville, Tennessee over the weekend, where can people find you, find your stuff?
If you Google my name, Todd Sullivan, I'm not the only Todd Sullivan. I tell people this, and then they Google my name and they say, I don't see you. I'm not the only Todd Sullivan in the world. But if you Google my name and you look around a bit, you will find me and a lot of stuff about me. And so it's actually, I'm really active. And so I do have a lot of stuff that's just Googleable. You can also find me on Facebook, my name, Instagram, places like that. You can find me on my magazine. It's called Samjoko, Samjoko magazine. Or if you also just do Three-Legged Crow, that's what Samjoko means, Three-Legged Crow magazine, it probably will come up too. So these are different places you can find me, but probably the easiest is just Google my name.
Okay. And I will put links in the show description for anybody that's listening. And I meant to ask, tell us about the magazine.
Right. So I started this magazine 5 years ago. Maybe it's been 6 years now, but like 5, 6 years ago. As soon as I came back from Taiwan, I started it. It publishes, it's non-genre specific. And so you can send in horror fiction, fantasy fiction, science fiction, literary fiction. You can send in poetry. You can send in essays. You can send in plays. You can send in screenplays. So it's just quality. If it's really well written, if it's interesting, then it may have a chance of getting published. And it's been around for 5 years. It's a paying market. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's a paying market. So yeah, that's Some Joker magazine.
Oh, well, we'll try and remember that. And we get a lot of budding authors sometimes in our chat. I've got a couple of them actually that I'll send your way that are up and coming with some stuff. Some of it's really good. So, but I think there's like a book printed every minute now that we have the electronic things.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's really hard to get your stuff out there. So
you have to really put in a lot of effort. That's actually part of the experience now. Just putting a lot of effort in promoting yourself. It's not easy at all.
Well, I need to give you credit. You took a chance on me by letting me read your books and then agreeing to come on the show. Your stuff is fantastic. I love it. I really do. And I'm hoping that I can get some more of your stuff in the future. I really did enjoy it. It left me very few books have I read where when you're at the end of the book, you go, okay, I got to start over again because I know I forgot something or missed something. And you were talking about the names being so hard. I read a pirate book that was going back and forth between modern time and down in New Orleans with the French and the names. And I told the guy, I read the second book before I read the first book. And I was like, I wish I'd read the first book because in my head, I had these people pictured totally different than were in the first book when it described them. But that's where it told you the proper pronunciations and things. So, but it wasn't that hard as far as the names and stuff. In fact, I didn't have a problem with it. So.
Ah, cool. Well, hopefully people don't have a problem with these names either.
I think it'll be great. Todd, keep in touch with us here at the show. I think we're friends on Facebook too. And let me know if you want to just come in sometime and hang out and, chat. We get authors in here all the dang time. So you'd be welcome to, especially being local. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed the reviews you did, and I really enjoyed that you invited me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. The pleasure's mine, really, because your stuff is good. And anybody that likes horror, likes vampire lore, check out Todd Sullivan's stuff. So, Todd, have a great night, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, cool. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Talk to you soon, Todd. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was a great episode of tonight's shows. We had, like we said, we had vampires and werewolves and all kinds of cool stuff. So every week here on the Sportcat Show, we try and highlight authors, celebrities, athletes. So if you know someone that's got a story or something and they want to try and get it out there, let me know. Of course, you can always find me Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Thin Line Rock Station from noon until 2, playing music and telling some stories. And then we have a weekly show. We've had to take a little bit of a brief hiatus because of a health scare, but we should be back up and running next week. But if not, you can catch me here every Wednesday night. Hopefully Jen will be back with me soon. She's been at home taking care of the kids. I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out. It's free. And if you don't mind, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it. Next week, we have another great episode. The first author, well, you'll recognize her. She's been here before, Patricia Copeland. She's back. And then in our second hour, we have an FDNY firefighter dispatcher that's going to be on talking about some of their work. So that'll be kind of an interesting shift. But I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a great episode. Everybody have a great week. If you have any questions, you want to shoot me a voicemail, speakpipe.com/Sportcat. All of that will be in the show notes. And of course, you can find me at Sportcat or at Sportcat Medic on most social medias, and drop me a line and let me know what's going on. And hey, if you got a song you want played on, the Thin Line Rock Station, shoot me a message. I'll try and get it on. Everybody have a great night. I will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.